Maniacs, this is your boy Bradford Lassiter, aka Big Brad the Rock, and this is my Captain America Civil War spoiler review. Now, I have put this spoiler review on hold long enough. Now, back in May, after I saw the movie and did my initial review of it, I did want to do a spoiler review of it, and when I did it, I went over it and I wasn't all that too impressed with it. And so I decided to redo it again. Then when I did have the chance to redo it again, my dad had passed away, so therefore I wasn't really in the right mindset to do it. And then right after all that had passed, I thought about doing it, and I just said, you know what, screw it, I'll wait till like just around the corner from Doctor Strange coming out. And Doctor Strange is coming around the corner, so I thought now would be the perfect time to give you my spoiler review of Captain America Civil War in honor of Doctor Strange coming out. Now, in case most of you don't know, I absolutely loved this movie. I love this movie more than The Winter Soldier, and even more than the first Avengers movie. Like, I have said this, I feel like Captain America Civil War, even though I loved Age of Ultron, I feel like Civil War was everything Age of Ultron should have been. I feel like this movie was the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's a movie where there are really real high stakes and that there are consequences for characters' actions, and it just ends on a sour note. But I really do love this film, especially for the action and how the film opens up with all the Avengers all there, and they're just, well, except for Vision, which probably was one of my few gripes about this film. He's like, why do y'all not have Vision with you? Couldn't he, like, help stop, like, almost any problem? He's probably the most powerful character in this, but whatever. But it was still cool seeing Captain America, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, and Black Widow, they all working together to get Crossbones, who was in the Winter Soldier, and he's pretty much the catalyst of what sets off the Civil War aspects of the movie. Because Captain America, he has Crossbones. He's about to suicide bomb himself, but then Scarlet Witch, she covers him and then throws him up in the air, and then he accidentally sends him into this building, and the building explodes, and Scarlet Witch, she feels guilty over that. And because of this, the Avengers get a visit from General Ross, or at this point, Secretary Ross. Remember him? Thunderbolt Ross from The Incredible Hulk. So he pretty much presents them with the Sokovia Accords. He pretty much tells them, hey, while there are some people out there that refer to y'all as heroes, there are some who prefer the word vigilante. How would you feel about a bunch of enhanced humans inflict their will and save the world, and yet unaware of what they leave behind? And he pretty much starts showing them footage of all the other events that have happened in past films, like the first Avengers, Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, and now Lagos, which is in this movie. But pretty much the Sokovia Accords is pretty much a registration. Hey, you can still be superheroes, but you have to do it when and if we feel it's necessary. And Tony Stark, he is for that. And I just love that scene, because like, as General Ross is explaining this, you would think Tony Stark, he'd be more vocal about it, but he's like, no, I definitely agree. And Captain America, he's just looking back and like, are you just not going to say anything? And then that first argument between everybody. Everybody's on one side, everybody's on the other side. Some people are conflicted. But the thing I liked about this movie is that it's not just one-sided. You feel why Tony Stark is on one side and why Captain America is on the other side. And we even see, like, Tony Stark, he's at that college, and he's pretty much doing the charity work. And then he gets a visit from Alfred Woodard, who plays Marie, who is in Luke Cage, but she's not the same character in this movie. So again, one of my gripes about this movie is like, how are you going to have her in this movie and then have her be a completely different character in a Netflix show? Yes, they're in the same universe, but they kind of separate each other. But still, I like consistency. But whatever. But pretty much, she blames Tony Stark because her son was in Sokovia during the whole Ultron incident. And so Tony Stark, he ultimately feels the blame for that. Governments are ran by people with agendas, and those agendas tend to change. What if they send us somewhere where we don't need to, or what if there's somewhere we do need to go and they don't send us? Because I think Captain America did say it best. Yes, there are some casualties, but the safest hands are still our own. But you ultimately feel for Tony Stark too, because he spent movie after movie making mistakes. Because in this movie, he lost Pepper. She's not dead though, but I guess when Pilote, she ran out in their contract, so they just said this Pepper in this movie that she's gone, but I don't know. But anyway, so he lost Pepper. He feels responsible for Aldrich killing, and in Iron Man 3, he created Ultron. And so therefore, after mistake after mistake, the government wants to hold Tony Stark accountable for this, and he was like, alright, fine, I'll sign on to this. Later on, Agent Peggy Carter, she passes away in this movie. And it turns out that Agent 13 from Winter Soldier, she turns out to be Peggy's niece. And I just love that speech that she gave at her funeral, where she's pretty much explaining how was her Aunt Peggy able to come by in a world that was ultimately male-driven, and she pretty much tells them, just compromise where you can, and where you can't, don't, because ultimately it is your duty to plant yourself like a tree and say, no, you move. And you can tell that really hit Captain America home, because he really feels in the situation like, I just don't feel right about this situation. I gotta say no. And then we transition later into the movie, and I just like the way how they did the transitions in this movie with the big letters. How they say, now we're in Berlin, now we're in Lagos, now we're in Bertricrest. Pretty much, I watched the commentary of this movie, and the Russo brothers, they pretty much said that they uses that as a way of saying we're in the next chapter of the story now, and it definitely plays off later on in the movie. Now, initially, I know some people's biggest concern about this movie is because, we have all these Avengers in this movie to the point where it's like, all right, is this still a Captain America movie or is this just Avengers 2.5? And it ultimately is still a Captain America movie because the Winter Soldier aspect of the movie, this is still a sequel to Captain America the Winter Soldier because Bucky, he's in the forefront of this movie. He's on the run and he gets blamed for this crime that he didn't commit. So everyone is after Bucky, and Bucky, he is accused of killing Black Panther's father, T'Chaka. And speaking of Black Panther, guys, I cannot stress how much I love Chadwick Boseman as the Black Panther. He just works, and this movie is still ultimately a Black Panther origin story, or his introduction into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And when he first came on the screen, coming after Bucky in his Black Panther suit, he was just like, And I did like the chase between Black Panther, Bucky, Cap, and Falcon, and they're all chasing each other, and they end up in that tunnel. They're all after each other. It was a very entertaining scene. Another thing I like about this movie is the Russo brothers, they pretty much reinvented Captain America because, even going back to the Winter Soldier, when we first see that first scene where they're on the boat with Captain America and he starts throwing some real combat moves, you're just like, this is not the same Captain America we saw in the Avengers and Captain America the First Avenger. No, we're going to make Captain America cool, and they did make Captain America cool in here, and it definitely culminates with all the action scenes in this movie, from the first action scene in this movie when they're in Lagos, and this tunnel scene, and even later on in the movie. I just love the way the Russos directed the action in this movie. Now to jump ahead later on in the movie, Cap and Falcon, they do get a hold of Bucky, and he pretty much finds out that after an incident that happened with the CIA, Zemo Baron, I'll talk more on him later, but pretty much he's going out to find the other Winter Soldiers that were pretty much made but never really came to fruition. Cap believes in one of them, and so he recruits everyone, while on the other hand, Tony and Scarlet Witch, they go to recruit some more people to stop Cap. And they all do get together at this airport scene. More on that in a minute, but let's talk about Scarlet Witch for a second. I absolutely love Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch in this movie, and I do like I loved her in Agent Ultron, and I love her more in this movie. But pretty much, as I said in the beginning, she's responsible for everything that happened in Lagos in the movie because she feels guilt, because she feels like, she's a monster and she doesn't know the full extent of her powers. And Vision, he tries to console her. And I do like the relationship and the chemistry between them two because ultimately they both got their powers from the Mind Gem, which is on Vision's forehead. So instantly it's like they connect, but at the same time they're still on the opposite side. So it's like they still not coming together, but they want to, but they just can't at the moment. Vision won't even let her leave Avengers headquarters, and then Vision says, I just want everyone to see you as I see you. Love Paul Bettany as Vision. That was just a great payoff in Agents of Ultron. But luckily, Hawkeye comes to rescue her, and some people may have a problem with Hawkeye being shoehorned into the movie, and honestly, I didn't really feel like he was shoehorned into the movie, because if you really think about it, Hawkeye, he does owe a life debt to Quicksilver for saving his life in Age of Ultron. So ultimately, Hawkeye, he owes a life debt to Quicksilver by taking care of Scarlet Witch. And Hawkeye was the one that gave Scarlet Witch the pep talk and to come out and start tearing Ultron bots in half. And so she finally comes to her senses and saves Hawkeye from Vision, and she's like, I can't control my fear, only my own. And then she just takes her powers and then just makes them heavy and just makes him more heavier and go down below. Like, that was a badass scene. Now, the airport scene, I'm telling you, I just love that scene. Like, I was just watching that scene, like, just in awe. Like, I never thought this would happen. And especially with Spider-Man being in Tom Holland, he is perfect as Spider-Man. Like, now, is he the best? I still have reservations on that, but I still, like, he is the best Spider-Man right now. Like, I feel like, because he is a bit younger, so therefore we have him for more years, and I feel like this is the true Spider-Man that, we can all relate to, because we all love Spider-Man, because he was, like, I gravitated towards Spider-Man, because, you get characters like Batman, Superman, Iron Man, they're all pretty much adult, and it's like, if you do good, you can aspire to be like them, but it's like, you get Peter Parker, who was a teenager, it's like, I feel like I'm like him, and I could aspire to be like Peter Parker / Spider-Man. And his inclusion in this fight is also just hilarious and yet just great because, you know, he's a teenager in this situation. He's never done this before. In like that one scene where he's fighting Falcon and the Winter Soldier and he grabs Bucky's arm. He's like, "You have a metal arm? That's awesome, dude!" You can tell he's a teenager in this situation. But I'm just telling you, just watching Spider-Man interact with these characters in this movie, and I thought would never happen, especially if Sony had the rights to them. I just thought it never happened. And just when it happened, like I wanted to cry, just cry tears of joy, because wow. And then you also get that shot where everyone's on different sides and they all just charge against each other and just fighting each other, and everyone is fighting a specific person for a reason. Like Black Panther, he's fighting Bucky because he thinks he killed his father. Iron Man and Captain America, they're fighting because, you know. And even Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch, I like their little bit together where they're fighting, and Scarlet Witch is like, "We're still friends, right?" And then Hawkeye is like, "Depending on how hard you hit me." And everyone has a little funny moment in this movie. Like even Hawkeye, he begins to fight Black Panther, and he's like, I don't think we ever met. I'm Clint." And Black Panther's like, "I don't care." Now here's the thing, Black Panther and Spider-Man, they are the steal-the-show characters in this film. But the third steal-the-show character is Ant-Man in this movie, because we all knew Ant-Man was going to be in this movie due to the end credits scene at the end of Ant-Man's movie. But Ant-Man, you know, he's a fanboy in that moment when he's meeting Captain America and everybody like, "I'm shaking your hand, Captain America," and he looks like Scarlet Witch is like, I know you too, you're great too." And then just watching Ant-Man interact with everyone, he's like, "I believe this is yours, Captain America," and he's with Hawkeye. He's like, "Okay, I'm good, Arrow guy, let's go." And then he has this little truck that looks like a little Hot Wheels truck, and then he tells Captain America to throw, and then he throws it, and then Ant-Man, he throws a little atom thing to make it bigger, and it goes bigger, and it turns into a truck that aiming at War Machine. Is like, "Oh, come on!" And it turns out it was a gas truck, and Ant-Man's like, "Oh man, I thought it was a water truck." But the big steam sealer scene in this movie is when they need a diversion. And now I will say I did have this little part spoiled with me because they were selling his vinyl pop figure, but ultimately Ant-Man becomes Giant Man. He's all like, "I haven't tried this before," and he doesn't, and he just gets bigger, and he grabs Brody, and then Spider-Man, he's like, "Holy shit!" and then Ant-Man's like, "Oh!" I just remember I was buffawing at that moment. But then ultimately Spider-Man steals that scene from him when he's all like, "Hey guys, you remember that really old movie, Empire Strikes Back?" And I'm like, "Really? You haven't seen Empire Strikes Back?" Oh, wait a minute. Tom Holland really hasn't seen Empire Strikes Back. Okay. But anyways, Spider-Man, he's all like, it's like, when they're on the snow planet and they go around those little walkie thingies. And so Spider-Man, he springs his web around Giant Man's legs, and then he falls. Captain Bucky are ultimately the ones that get away in a helicopter, but not before they run into Black Widow. And you would think she's about to stop them, but ultimately she doesn't. She stops Black Panther, who is still after them, and she tells him to go, which I kind of predict because Black Widow, she's on Tony Stark's side, but you did kind of feel like she was going to be like a double agent, because you know you can't just have her and Captain America connect on a camaraderie level in the Winter Soldier, and yet she's not on Cap's team. Now, I can understand because, you know, she is an ex-villain, and she's trying to feel on whatever side she's riding, but no matter what, she still feels for Cap, and she still loves him. And the fact that she saved him at that very moment, that just says a lot right there. What I like about this movie is, like, we all know why Tony Stark and Captain America are against each other, but you also understand why everyone is just on one side. Well, except for Falcon and War Machine, there really wasn't much of a choice. They're gonna choose their best friends no matter what. But you can see why Scarlet Witch, she's on Cap's side. You can see why Vision's on Tony Stark's side. You can see why Black Widow, she's on Tony Stark's side, but she still wants to be with Cap, so she's kind of conflicted. And then Spider-Man and Ant-Man, they're just there for, they pretty much have no real objective. And Black Panther, he has his own objective, just to go after Bucky. So Cap does get away, and then War Machine and Falcon, they're after them, Falcon's trying to stop War Machine from getting at them. And War Machine, he asks his Vision for help, and he shoots his beam, and Falcon dodges it and accidentally hits War Machine, and then he goes down and then splats. And you would think War Machine would have died, because come on, let's be real, he really would have died. But how he survived that, so who knows? Long story short, Baron Zemo, he does get there before Captain Bucky, and then Tony Stark, he does realizes that Captain Bucky were telling the truth about these other Winter Soldiers that might be a threat, and so he goes after them, but not without Black Panther coming right behind them. And so Iron Man, he does join Cap and Bucky for a little while, And now we get to Baron Zemo, and it turns out he killed all the other Winter Soldiers. Now let's talk about Baron Zemo for a little bit. I do like Daniel Bruhl as his character, and I feel like you watch this movie more and more because, trust me, watch this movie more and more, you will appreciate it more and more. But Daniel Bruhl as Zemo, well, initially I thought it's still another weak Marvel villain, but as you watch it more and more, you do kind of understand where he's coming from. I think like he's probably the closest thing we've had to the next cool villain because he's pretty much more psychological. He wants to get them from the inside, but the reason for it is because he keeps listening to this little answer machine of his wife and kids, and it turns out that they're all dead. And it's just an old answer machine, and all his kids died in Sokovia doing Age of Ultron. So that pretty much explains why he's doing this to the Avengers. Still a weak villain, but not as weak of a villain to the point where he's like, I can appreciate him because, again, he's getting them more on a psychological level. And I just hope if they bring him back, I hope they do a little bit more with him. But the biggest thing I love about this movie is the plot twist of this movie. This is something that no one saw coming. Well, except if you maybe saw this little Easter egg, but who knows. But he pulls up this video of the car wreckage from the very beginning where Bucky, he got the Winter Soldier serum from. And then Tony Stark sees it and he's like, wait a minute, I know this road. What is this? And then you look at the car. And then he sees Bucky in the video. And then he looks in the car and it turns out that it is Tony Stark's parents, Howard and Maria Stark. And then you start to put two and two together and you realize, oh, wait, oh, shit, fuck, oh, no, oh, Pretty much Bucky killed Tony Stark's parents, and Cap knew about it and didn't tell him, so now Tony Stark is pissed. Now, this is the versus moment that I loved. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Wow, I love the airport scene, but pretty much to me, this was the versus fight that really put everything to a halt. Like, the versus scene in this movie was everything that this should have been. Just pay attention. Like, you can learn a thing or two from this. I love you. I love you for what you did. And you did everything so right. You can learn a thing or two from this movie right here, huh? But pretty much it's like this. You know, Tony Stark, he never really got the chance to reconcile with his father. They established this through all the movies. And then when his father did die, he really did want to reconcile, but never really got that chance. So he just passed it off and he just suppressed it. And then now just figuring out that, wait a minute, you're the reason my parents are dead. You're the reason I put myself through all this misery. So now I'm coming after you. But at the same time, you still understand Cap's side of it. Because it's like, Bucky, he was a victim. He was controlled by Hydra to do something he didn't want to do in the first place. And he still carries those scars of it. That's one of the things I love about Bucky. You know, he is a tragic character. He was just brainwashed into doing something he would never do. And he doesn't just get over that. And he still holds the scars of that in him to this day. And that does messes a person up. But Tony Stark doesn't care. He is coming after him. And I just love this fight and how they go from point A to point B. And finally, it ends up to that point where Cap and Bucky, they're using the shield to fight Iron Man. And ultimately, like, they're not trying to kill him. They're just trying to disable his suit. So I thought that was a nice little detail for them. And again, we also understand where Tony's coming from because at this point, Tony's lost everything and he feels responsible for everything. He feels responsible for Ultra's Killian. He feels responsible for Ultron, and he lost his parents and he lost Pepper. So now the fact that this happened in his life, that really put Tony Stark on edge. Quick side note, Black Panther did follow Tony to this, and he ultimately meets up with Zemo. Zemo, he pretty much apologizes to Black Panther for killing his father. Some people may have a problem with that because, you know, Black Panther, he spent the whole movie going after revenge to Bucky for killing his father, and then when he finds out who really killed his father, he decides to spare him. Look, it's like this, you know? Black Panther doesn't spare Zemo so easily. He spares him because even when he first came up, he really was ready to kill Zemo. But then after Zemo pretty much explains everything and why he's doing it for his family because he lost his family, as did Black Panther. He lost someone he loved, Zemo lost someone he loved. So ultimately, Black Panther, he's starting to see himself in Zemo as he's explaining why he's doing all this. Because he's ultimately doing it out of revenge, as does Black Panther. So therefore, when Black Panther, he says, vengeance has consumed you, it's consuming them. I'm done letting it consume me. He's starting to see himself in Zemo. And when Zemo started explaining everything, that was just the spark he needed to snap him out of his kill rage and finally listen to logic. And even still after that moment, Black Panther still didn't spare him like Zemo. He really was ready to kill himself, but then he stopped the bullet and he pretty much told him, look, I said I wouldn't kill you, but that doesn't mean I can't still arrest you. Now, jumping back to here, Tony Stark blasts Bucky's met an arm off, and now Cap's pissed, and they're going at it. And I just like that little callback to the first movie where Iron Man, he's telling him to stand down, but then Cap's like, I can do this all day. And then they're fine. And then they're finally fighting, and Cap, he's finally able to disable Tony Stark's suit. And then he goes to help Bucky, and then Tony Stark's, that shield doesn't belong to you, it belongs to my father. And then Cap's like, fine, and he drops the shield like, well, damn. So long story short, from the ending, Zemo gets arrested, and Tony Stark, he goes back to Avengers headquarters where Rhodey, he's still alive, and he's walking with the little brace on. So we get a cool Stan Lee cameo where he gives him a letter, pretty much Cap explaining everything why he didn't tell, and saying that if you ever need anything, I'll be there. So pretty much it just leaves a little open why this kind of resolved, but it kind of isn't resolved. And then, of course, in true Marvel fashion, we get two end credit scenes. The first one is where they're in Wakanda, and Bucky, he decides, look, I can't trust myself. So until they figure out how to get all this stuff out of my head, because there is a sequence of words being used to pretty much make me go apeshit and start killing everyone or hurting people, and people got hurt. And so until they're able to get all that in me, I think getting cryogenically frozen is the best thing for me. And so we did, and then Captain America, he talks to T'Challa, Black Panther, and he tells him, my father and your friend are both victims. If I can help one of them find peace. And then Cap's like, if they find out he's here, they're coming for him. And then Black Panther's like, let them try. And the camera just pans out to the statue of an actual Black Panther. And so I was like, yes, I am ready for a Black Panther movie now. I want it now. And then finally, the second end credit scene is with Peter Parker, Spider-Man. He's back at home in Queens with Aunt May, or as I call her, Aunt May, because she's played by Marissa Tomei, because she's probably the hottest Aunt May that we've ever had. But she's pretty much helping them because Peter Parker, he has a black eye, but then there's this little flash coming out of his web shooter, and it comes out and it's that little Spider-Man logo that we all know, and it pretty much cuts to Spider-Man will return. And so that pretty much ties us into Spider-Man Homecoming. Again, I said this movie is the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I really mean that because this movie really left it open-end. Tony Stark, he's back at Avengers headquarters. Captain America, he's pretty much at this point a fugitive. Bucky, he is held in Wakanda, and it pretty much says of Black Panther, Spider-Man, everyone is on different paths, and we don't know what this means. And I just leave how it lives open-ended, and there's consequences for characters' actions. And it definitely lays the groundwork for the rest of Phase 3, because you got Thor Ragnarok and Hulk supposed to be in it. Where were they doing all this? Guardians of the Galaxy, how do they tie into all this with Thanos and everything? And what does this mean for Ant-Man, with Ant-Man and the Wasp coming soon? And what does this mean for Black Panther and his movie? Like, what's that going to be all about? I just love how this movie pretty much just laid the groundwork of what we can expect. And I would assume that when Infinity War comes back, the government would be like, alright, this Sokovia Accords bullshit, we just need to drop that right now because there's a super demigod coming after us and we're going to need all the help we can get. Another reason why I love this movie, because it has me excited and optimistic for the Russo brothers who directed this movie. Because, after The Winter Soldier, which was directed by the Russo brothers, they were signed on to not only direct Captain America Civil War, but they signed on to direct Avengers Infinity War and whatever the fourth Avengers movie is going to be. And ultimately, that kind of, while I was excited, I was like curious, because it's like, really? Like, they make one great movie and they get the keys to the kingdom. But after watching this movie, I'm like, okay, the Russo brothers have my trust that they can make Avengers Infinity War, and especially with the large cast ensemble, because with Infinity War, they're trying to bring in everyone from this movie, along with the rest of the missing Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy and the two new characters introduced in this movie, and possibly introduce Captain Marvel and have Doctor Strange in it. Like, screw it, I'm just ready for this movie. Let's do it. And they've definitely proven that that they are competent when it comes to action. So I'm very curious how they will handle the action in Avengers Infinity War. But as for Captain America Civil War on its own, like, I just love this movie. Again, this is my favorite of the Marvel Cinematic Universes right now, which dethroned the first Avengers movie, which was my favorite for a long time. But now it's this, because it's like, I love The Empire Strikes Back. That's my favorite Star Wars movie. And I love Captain America because it's like, again, I said those two movies are kind of the same, because like, it's that movie that leaves it open-ended and everything starting. There's consequences for characters' actions. And it was fun in all the right ways. It was funny in all the right ways. It was action-packed in all the right ways. This movie was just perfect to me. And right now, it is my favorite movie of the year. Until Star Wars Rogue One comes out, which could possibly dethrone it. But until then, I still to this day say that Captain America Civil War gets 5 stars, for it is a masterpiece. That's it for the day. If you've watched this video, thank you so much for watching. What did you think of this video? Let me know in the comment section below. Have you seen Captain America Civil War? Do you love it? What's your favorite of the Marvel Cinematic movies as of right now? But if you like what you see, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. If you want to see more, go ahead and check out my channel. The links are in the description below. And be sure to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Movie Pilot, and Periscope. Peace.